Okay, what I'm going to do today is talk a little bit about things we haven't mentioned yesterday or today. And then as we really need to understand the customers, and even more important, how do we approach the customers? Now, just let me give you this is very biased. It's my idea right now of approaching customers. What we want to do is provide them a capability of large masses to geo, like space solar power, one of our potential big customers, or to the apex anchor and release to the moon and Mars. Oh, the Mars Society and the Moon Society are both thinking about huge masses, and Mr. Musk wants 1 million tons up there to the Mars. Now you realize that rockets put less than 0.5% of what's on the pad to the surface of Mars. The rocket equation eats up everything. Now, Mr. Musk is going to have reusability and all that kind of stuff, which will make it cheaper, but you don't deliver any more in your efficiency. So what we need to do is understand our customers. That's the first thing. The second thing is, holy Toledo, we have to use money talk. I was at a conference at the British Interplanetary Society, and I met a gentleman there that spent his 30 minutes talking about how to talk money. And I went up to him and I admitted I have no flipping idea how to talk money. We had two very nice discussions, and he was a brilliant guy, and he really helped me understand that I still don't know how to talk money. But the real kicker is we need to talk to the customer in their terminology. And that's what the key is. How do we talk to customers? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you our charts and talk about what we need to do in the overall scope. And I hope you guys internalize this a little bit and start thinking about. So here's my assumption that we're going in right now. The first space elevator we build will be for logistics, not humans. The humans will come along a little bit. And then, of course, Steve wants huge masses that will grow our tethers so we can do huge masses. But right now, we need something like no humans, 7 payloads, tether climbers on each tether per week, 14-ton payload, 6-ton climber, 2 space elevators for initial galactic harbor. In my mind, that's what I see the customer needs in the near future. So if we start talking about how we deal with the customer, it's what do we say to them? We don't explain the thickness of the tether. They couldn't care less. What we need to do is what are we going to provide to them? It's called a value proposition. So when we start talking to the customer, we're going to say, hey, what do you need? What can we offer you? What relative price is acceptable to you? What type of product or service do you need? And we talk to them in those terms, not the engineering terms. Now, I'm just putting this chart up because I've come to the conclusion these are our customers. Now, we've got all the historic ones, the geosynchronous, okay? We've got all the comms and weather and all that kind of stuff. But there are future missions that we really have to talk about. And space solar power is pushing the envelope right now. They need roughly 3 million tons to geosynchronous in the next 20 years or so. But here's the kicker. Each satellite weighs more than 2,600 tons. Think about that now. The individual satellite weighs 2,600 tons. The UK has said they want to buy 5 of those. So let's just multiply 2 times 5 is 10. Well, that's more than half the amount of tons we got to orbit between 57 and 2020. So these outrageous requests are coming into us, and we're the only ones who can really do 1 million tons to Mars and 3 million tons to Geo in a ecological approach, in a simplistic approach using electricity instead of rocket fuel. So if you look at the projects that are out there, we're in pretty good shape. By the way, that L5 settlement where you put like 2-3 million people in a rotating habitat at the altitude of the moon, it took me 6 months to figure out it's 20 million tons at that altitude. Bummer. Pretty pictures. These are all out there. Here's an interesting one. They want to put all these people into these rotating places at very high altitudes. Well, they need to do that smoothly with a lot of stuff. Mr. Musk won the idea of having an up and down capability to the surface of the moon. Well, Mr. Bezos also won the contract. So we have a contract right, or a vision right here. Now, look at how small the people are. To do this job, it takes like 4 launches from the surface of the Earth to low Earth orbit, refueling of this dude, and then going all the way to the moon, and then refueling it again to go up and down to the surface. So it's a huge support infrastructure. And this guy, he wants to put people on the surface of the Mars, but to have one mission vehicle get to Mars, he needs 5 launches. 5 launches. He wants to do 3 per day. Now, he has a slight little problem in that he can only go to Mars every 26 months. So he's got to put all these vehicles in low Earth orbit and then gather, I've done the numbers, like 400 of them in low Earth orbit and go to Mars every 26 months. Whereas we, from the Apex Anchor, can send payloads to Mars every day of the year. So we don't have to wait for the 26, and we can send a lot of payloads. So what we need to do is understand what the customer wants. And here are the benefits of space elevators. You guys all know this is straightforward. Daily release to Mars, launch windows to Mars, safety, all that kind of stuff. We can do that, but we shouldn't talk these things to the customer. We want to talk about value propositions. So we want to join rockets. Let's not piss off rockets like I've just done the last 3 charts. What we want to do is join rockets in a dual space access architecture. Let's let humans go on Mr. Musk and Mr. Bezos's vehicles rapidly through radiation belts. We can't do that right now. So we want to be the green road moving a lot of logistics. We can say that we're ready to start engineering development. Just listening to all the questions we've had for 2 days, we start to understand what we need to do. We got a long ways to do, but we can certainly start a mega project. And what are our benefits? Okay, now this is between us talking about engineering. Okay, we got to translate these to value propositions. But efficient launch, 70% to geo, green road, all these types of things, daily launch to Mars, all that kind of good stuff. We got to take that and talk to the customer in their language. Ooh, bummer. We've got an idea. Well, how do we put this in perspective? Aha, let's talk transportation. We're a transportation infrastructure. Oh, we're a permanent infrastructure like a bridge. Those thoughts we can put in the customer's mind. Daily, efficient, inexpensive. We put those in the mind. We're the green road. That's got a lot of plus in the sense of environmentalists around the world. So we are the green road to space. We don't burn nothing in the atmosphere. We've got this value proposition. If it's Mr. Musk, we should be talking about daily launches, supplying a tremendous amount of mass. Don't even talk about how we do it. Just talk about what we can do. And then we start talking about value propositions like unique things, like we get there fast to Mars. We can get there in 61 days. The amount of mass we move. The lower right was developed in our report about 5 years ago on space elevators or the transportation system for the 21st century. We extrapolated what we believe we can do. It gets to 170,000 tons per year with 3 galactic harbors and 6 full operational tethers. That's a growth. We're not going to come up with that at the beginning, but we can offer to the customer these types of numbers. Okay, value proposition. Here's an approach. We want to assemble stuff on the top of the Apex Anchor and release it to you. Where are you? Oh, you're a miner. So you want a spacecraft full of mining equipment and you need a rocket to direct it to the right place. You need control systems and everything. Well, we can assemble that at the top of the gravity well so we don't have any problem. We can release it so it can go to your asteroid pretty fast. So if we want to talk about, capabilities, that's what we want to do. Propositions. What can we do for them? So, we're sitting here saying, why space elevators? Well, those are the principal things: unmatched efficiency, unmatched mass movement, apex anchor assembly, and the velocity of release is something. We haven't really talked to the planetary scientists at JPL and stuff, other than me at one or two little meetings here and there. But we can send stuff from the top of the gravity well on a long tether. I call it the science tether. It's 163,000 kilometers. We can get out of the solar system without rockets. You know, those, and oh, by the way, we can assemble a 10,000 ton spacecraft at the top and release it to any place in the solar system. I mean, we've got capabilities there, but you have to talk in the language of the customer. Well, we did that in this at the Body of Knowledge there, and I just like to show these charts. And of course, this is Adrian's picture. I got to acknowledge that. We have the technology now in the labs. They're not out yet, but all the people in that paper said we should have tether production 5 to 10 years. So then we don't want to piss off the rocket guys, so we say we want to work with them. We can't do low Earth orbit. It's ridiculous for even to think about support from space elevators. But we're really great all over GEO for space solar power guys. I think we're going to have a little bit of success with those guys in the new report that's coming out. We'll see. Here's a specific example of what you can say to the UK activities to develop 5 Cassiopeia satellites at geosynchronous, providing 10 gigawatts to the UK. If you look in the middle at the lower, there's a chart there showing the growth of mass to geosynchronous and beyond. That profile says that when Cassiopeia goes from step 1 to step 2, toward step 3, which is operations, we will provide the mass to geosynchronous. So we don't use rockets at that point. We're the green road, so we can help save the atmosphere as well as supporting the space solar. So this is the type of thing we want to do. We want to talk to the customer in the terms of mass delivered to where they want it. Those types of statements are what we need to do. And then we really have to sit down and think, what is our real mission? And our real mission is to stand up and say, we can do space elevators. Now, there are a lot of problems. Okay, I got lots of problems. We talked about them in the last 2 days. But as somebody who's built over 100 satellites for space, I know we can do space elevators. So we've got to get on with it and talk to the customers. I think that's my last chart. Yep. Okay, do we have any questions?
Thanks, Pete. Yes, my question, Pete, is you've talked about the value proposition to the customer, the user of the space elevator. Have you given any thought to the investment proposition? What's it like for a potential investor in space elevators to get something built and get the problems ironed out?
Yes. I have thought about that a lot. In fact, we had a partial success. It fell apart. And so the answer is you want to talk more like you're talking to the customer, but with the confidence that you can build it when you talk to the builders. And when you talk to the investors, you need to show them the schedule, the engineering expertise we have. Where are we in the development of the engineering? You know, at NASA, they use TRLs. I don't like those anymore. The commercial world doesn't use TRLs. And, you know, what you need to do is show the maturity of the different technologies to the investors. And that's a big part. And yeah, I've got a few charts that do that, but you have to have the flow of the development. You have to have the first 3 years identified, what you really need to do in the first 3 years, and things like that. So the investors are a different set of charts, different sets of words, different set of approaches. But the investors the message to the investors must be peppered with why the customer wants to use your system when it's operational. So you must have it heavy into the customer support when you're talking to investors.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, advertising seeks to educate the customer and tell the customer what he wants. Should we do the same thing? Should we be trying to educate our customers first?
Yes. And we should really push the things I was talking about a few minutes ago. You know, no humans are first round, 7 satellites on at a time, 14 tons each payload. You know, the ability to support geosynchronous phenomenally, the ability to go to the moon in 14 days from the apex anchor, the ability to get to Mars in 61 days, fastest, sometimes it's 400 days. You send nails and hammers on that trip. 61 days you send pizza. You know, so yes, you need to talk to the customer about what we can provide, but also, you know, the terminology is in money. As I said, I failed miserably in the money side. I don't understand it. I keep talking to people and they help me here and there, but we need to talk money when we're talking to the customers.
Yeah.
I mean, the investors, the customers, they just want to know that it's going to happen and it's not too expensive.
Les?
So that's an excellent segue into my question, which is, you were talking about rockets having a large, like a very small payload fraction. But as a customer, I could say, hey, most of that mass of the rocket is fuel. And that fuel is just, dollars as far as I'm concerned. How does the dollars of fuel in the rocket compare with the dollars of energy I'm going to have to, beam up to the climber?
All the numbers show that no matter what you do, space elevators are going to be cheaper, mainly because it's a permanent infrastructure. The investment up front will be a good, 10 to $20 billion, somewhere in there. Definitely a big investment. But then once you get it going, the cost for the toll road cost will be very minimum. You've got to reinvest, get your money back, of course, but then from then on, it's very low. And the real kicker is it's not just fuel they're burning, it's fuel they're burning in our atmosphere. So when you talk about the cost of rockets, it's not just financial, it's damage to the atmosphere, risk of explosions, et cetera, et cetera. And there are a lot of people starting to object. It turns out in California, there are a lot of people pushing back on Mr. Musk expanding his capability there from once every 2 months to 3 times a day. They don't like that. And there are a lot of people pushing back in the academic arena in environmental effects. It has not reached a momentum yet. It's still academic. But the full cost of rockets is really beyond what everybody talks about.
Pete, would it be fair to say that the costs for rockets are skewed towards LEO? Because all the numbers I've ever seen are for low Earth orbit.
Right.
And
Right.
it gets very expensive to go from LEO up to GEO, doesn't it?
Right. Okay. Here's the way the rocket equation works. You go to LEO, it's 4% of the mass. And the rest of it in the history we've thrown away, but now Mr. Musk is reusing, makes it cheaper, more operational, et cetera. That's good, but it's still only 4%. In fact, to make it reusable and stuff, you use steel instead of aluminum and titanium. So they're actually only getting like 3% to LEO. To get to GEO, it's half of that. Okay, it costs you half of the mission in rocket and fuel to get to geosynchronous. So it's 4% to LEO, 2% to geosynchronous. The Apollo program was 0.5% of the mass on the pad got to the surface. No reusability. Oh, by the way, Artemis is the same way. They're not reusing anything on the Artemis. Now we're using reusability, SpaceX and reusability, Blue Origin to get up and down now. So that's a good addition. But getting people to the low lunar arena is on Artemis, and that's all throwaway. And it's like $4 billion launch. So yes, the consumption of fuel and everything is dramatic, and the percentages go down. Now, there are ways, and people argue that once you get into LEO, oops, you've already thrown away 96%. When you get to LEO, they can use ion engines and stuff like that. The way I described ion engines when I was teaching space His ion engines are like, now, pardon me if anybody's offended here, it's like mouse farts. And they turn it on and leave it on for 24 hours or 6 months and stuff, and it's continued acceleration. And it's really great for light spacecraft that are going to beyond Mars and stuff like that. And I don't want to take anything away from those capabilities. They're really beautiful, but it's not very efficient. And so the rocket equation eats you up, and the space elevators defeat the rocket equation. That's about as simple as you can say it.